Welcome, seminary students, to today's Explainer. Listen, we are diving into a topic right now that will absolutely make or break your future ministries. We're talking about pastoral care. It is literally the heartbeat of the church, but let's just be real for a second. It is also the #1 cause of burnout for young ministry leaders, period. Today, we're going to map out this totally vital journey from being a stressed-out solo shepherd trying to do everything yourself to becoming an equipping guide who actually empowers an entire community. Okay, let's jump right in and figure out how to build some sustainable biblical systems of care. Here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit the solo shepherding mistake, look at equipping the saints, doing life in community, talk about the absolute need for structure, and finally, build out a comprehensive care plan. All right, starting right off with Section 1, the solo shepherding mistake. Now, you might already be feeling that immense, crushing pressure that says, because you're the pastor, you just have to do everything yourself. To frame this, let me ask you a question. What's better, a big church or a small church? I mean, do you want a gifted preacher feeding a massive flock with really authoritative Bible teaching? Or do you want healthy small groups where people connect deeply and actually provide accountability? Well, looking back at Acts chapter 2, the early church actually modeled both. They gathered day by day in the temple, that's your large authoritative teaching, and they broke bread in their homes, that's your intimate small group connection. You absolutely need both, but trying to manage both of those dynamics completely on your own, no way. That just leads straight to disaster. When trying to manage that balance, leaders usually fall into two massive traps. Mistake number 1, thinking you have to care for everyone by yourself. It's this whole solo heroic caregiver myth. You literally cannot be everywhere at once. And mistake number 2, thinking care is just going to happen organically, without a clear plan. Let me tell you, caring for people does not happen by accident. Assuming the church will just automatically take care of its own without deliberate systems in place, that is a recipe for deep dysfunction in any growing ministry for sure. Which brings us to Section 2, equipping the saints. So if you can't do it alone, and it definitely won't happen by accident, we have to shift our entire paradigm to the biblical solution here, which is multiplication. The Apostle Paul writes to a young pastor named Timothy, and he says, "What you have heard from me, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." This is 2 Timothy 2:2. And honestly, it's the absolute core concept of multiplying yourself. The bigger your group gets, the more you have to focus on raising up other shepherds to share the load. Your success as a pastor isn't measured by how much ministry you do, but by how much ministry you actually entrust to others. Let's actually break down exactly how this works, based on Ephesians 4. Christ gave leaders, pastors, and teachers to the church. But check this out. Their primary job is not to do all the ministry. Their role is to equip God's people to do His work. You are the equipper. And the result of that? When the saints are equipped, we get a mature, unified, super healthy body that isn't just tossed around by every wind of new doctrine. The congregation ends up ministering to each other. Pastoral ministry is not a private, solo journey. It is a massive group effort. Moving on to Section 3, doing life in community. If the ultimate goal is that the entire church is involved in caring for one another, where does that mutual ministry actually take place? We have to fundamentally change how we view the church. The wrong view is seeing it simply as a cold institution or just a set of Sunday meetings. The right view? Seeing the church as my family, the group of people I am actively living my life with as we follow Christ together. Now, in most churches, the absolute easiest way to facilitate this is through home groups or small groups. They become the place where those intimate, trusting relationships are built. But hear me on this. Real care is so much more than just showing up to a home group on a Tuesday night. Real care is what we do in everyday life. It's becoming aware of the needs of others throughout the week and stepping in to come alongside them with real, loving support. I love this metaphor. Think of the demands of everyday life as juggling. If church is just another ball you have to juggle, like just another meeting you're obligated to attend, it is incredibly easy to just drop it the second you get tired. But if church is the actual people you are doing life with, they become the hands that help you deal with all those other struggles and pressures. They literally help you juggle. Doing life together is what actually sustains people. So what's actually required for this kind of true community? Well, first, it requires sharing life in common, your vision, your burdens, your victories, the whole shebang. It also demands mutual accountability. It's knowing that my life is not my own, along with having total transparency about my real struggles. And perhaps the toughest requirement of all, leaders must model submission. Vulnerability has to start with you. As a leader, you've got to submit your life, your plans, and your schedules to the church and to the best care of your people. Because frankly, if you aren't living in community, you really can't lead a community. All right, Section 4, the need for structure. Now, there is almost always a tension between these beautiful organic relationships and the absolute necessity of organization as your congregation expands. So think about this. In the modern world, can true community exist without structure? Can you just magically squeeze community into a program? The reality is, the more people you have, the more organized you simply have to be. Because without structure, people will fall through the cracks. It's a guarantee. Let's look back at the early church again to put this into perspective. In Acts chapter 2, we see explosive growth. 3,000 souls were added literally in a single day. Imagine pastoring that. The early church had to instantly figure out how to care for thousands of brand new believers. You absolutely cannot maintain care for 3,000 people by relying solely on spontaneous organic interactions. And that explosive growth actually led to a massive crisis in Acts chapter 6. As the disciples increased, a complaint arose because vulnerable widows were actively being neglected in the daily food distribution. Notice this. Even in a deeply spirit-filled, vibrant, on-fire early church, without a highly organized plan, people still fell through the cracks. But the apostles' response wasn't just to work harder or sleep less. They organized. They appointed 7 specific men to the duty to ensure that care happened systematically. Which leads us nicely to our final section, Section 5, a comprehensive care plan. Let's take everything we've talked about today and turn it into a practical, actionable blueprint. To ensure everyone in your church is cared for without burning yourself out in the process, you need a 3-tier system. Tier 1, care for the large group through gospel-focused teaching and preaching. Real teaching is absolutely a form of pastoral care when it comes from a heart that actually listens to the flock. Tier 2, care for the leaders. You are only human. You have limits, so focus your personal shepherding on developing leaders who can share the load. And finally, Tier 3, equip everyone. Build and organize systems, like really healthy home groups, that empower the whole body to use their gifts to care for one another in their everyday lives. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this one provocative thought. Are you building a ministry you carry alone? Or are you building a community that carries each other? Listen, your calling is not to be the superhero who swoops in and solves every single problem. Your calling is to be the equipping guide who builds a healthy, mature body of believers fully capable of loving and caring for one another. Keep that front and center as you head into your pastorates. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.